Hello everyone and welcome back to my intro to Dota 2. Now, I know I said that day 3 was going to be about vision, but screw that, we're going over heroes, baby. Today we're going to go over, in this video, we're going to go over the strength heroes because there's a lot to go over. And I'm going to give them a score on 1 to 5 on how friendly to new players they are. Really quick, I'm just going to interject this somewhere in the video. I think it's important to know that Dota is ultimately a video game, and you really shouldn't pick a hero based exclusively on whether it's good and play it just where it's supposed to go. Especially if you're new to Dota, most of the people in your game, they're not playing the meta. Maybe they're trying to, but if you're playing with other new players, nobody is playing the meta. Ultimately, this game is about having fun, and when I play unranked, it's honestly more important for me to meme the enemy team into submission than it is to win the old-fashioned way. So please, don't take this as a hard and fast, this is what you're allowed to play if you're a new player. But if you are trying to get better, I know when I first started, I really wanted to improve so that I wasn't constantly... I felt like I was the reason my friends were losing games whenever we played together, and it was pretty frustrating. And so I wanted to get better quick. And so I tried really hard to learn, and part of learning is choosing things that are a little bit simpler and straightforward. If you set yourself up on a hero that's easy to succeed with, it can be pretty easy to learn more of what's going on. So basically just the entire purpose for the distinction between heroes that are very complicated and heroes that are very straightforward is just so that you can focus on what your team is doing and what the enemy team is doing. Maybe you can focus on items instead of focusing on items and your skills. So I definitely recommend that you go for support first. Honestly, just because supports don't have to worry too much about items, you get a couple of items, generally like Force Staff, Glimmer Cape. Metaboot's Force Staff, Glimmer Cape is okay on pretty much every single support, and then all you have to do is focus on where your hero is positioned, where your team is positioned, where the enemy team is positioned, and thinking about what you guys are trying to do. You pick someone like Snapfire, where you really just have to get used to landing 3 abilities. You don't need to land Little Shredder as a support. I mean, it's important, but in low MMR, you really just need to be able to land these 3 abilities. So you have 3 abilities to worry about landing, and you buy Force Staff, Mana Boots, Glimmer Cape, and then you have those items to worry about using. And that's it. That's all you have to be concerned about in terms of complexity of your heroes and its items. So, in general, the less mechanics that you interact with, the more you can focus on what you're doing. And what you want to do is master one thing at a time, and then add, more tools to your belt, to use a really bad analogy, but a very accurate one. So, yeah, I recommend. It's a technique called variable isolation. I recommend it if you're ever trying to get better at something. Reduce the complexity of what you're dealing with, and master individual elements of it, so that you don't have to think about them anymore. That's one of the biggest things about Dota 2, and we'll get into that, of course, in a future video. About laning. A lot of laning is about mastering a whole bunch of little techniques so that you can focus on outplaying your opponent. But yeah, we'll get into that later. Anyways, back to the breakdown. If you're wondering how I did this, basically I tried to look at how much game knowledge is required for each hero, as well as how easy it is to use their kit. My rating is based on the easier they are to be effective with, the better I rate them. So for example, someone like Night Stalker, I rate as a 1 star, because you have to know how to play him safely during the daytime and lane well and efficiently, and then during the nighttime you have to know how to play aggressive, and you have to know how to use his kit and who he's good against. And that's a lot of information for someone who's new to Dota 2. So with that little bit of an intro on how I'm doing this scale, let's go ahead and get started. Now, Abaddon here, I'm going to rate him at a 3 star. He's a pretty durable hero. I recommend that you take him as a support, either a 4 or a 5. You can take him as a 3, but the tricky part about this hero is that you have to know how dispels work in order to be very effective with him. So if you want to learn how dispels work, we'll cover that in a future video. If you have friends who play Dota 2, they can tell you, and maybe they can help you get into this hero. But in general, not my recommendation for a brand new player. Alchemist, we're going to go with 2 stars. This hero excels at grabbing a whole lot of money, but as far as his actual stats are concerned, his armor, his damage output, his attack speed, he needs to buy a lot of them. He needs to understand what items are good against the enemy heroes, and he needs to farm very well in the early game, which means you need to be good at laning, and you need to know the items of Dota 2. There's a lot to know there, so I don't recommend it for very early players. It's pretty easy to pick this hero and end up doing nothing with it because you're just not strong enough. Axe, I recommend him as a 4-star. He's pretty straightforward. Basically, you go 1 point in this, and then you choose one of these skills that you want to max, and you just lane. If you get close to people and they hit you, you have a chance to spin on them, and it does a ton of damage. Or you can use this on them, and it's just a damage over time. It's a pretty strong laning skill. The hero is pretty straightforward to play in team fights. Basically, you're just going to want to get a blink dagger and then blink on top of people and use this on them and hit them. And that's what you need to do on that hero in order to be effective. So it's fairly straightforward to play. Beastmaster, this is a 1-star hero. Now, he focuses on using his pets and summons. So if you're not ready to control a bunch of little units, and if you're not particularly good at understanding that much about vision and all the advantages it can give you, this hero, it's very easy to fail quite hard on, so I'm going to put him at a 1-star. Brewmaster, I rate him as 1-star as well, and the reasoning for rating Brewmaster as 1-star, even though I absolutely love playing him, is because you have to be able to control 4 heroes. This guy, when he uses his ulti and he has the shard, he has 4 units to control. Now, each of these guys, they have different spells, they have different abilities, and they have different, sometimes you need to split them up, and you need to use their spells differently. He's got Dispels, he's got Invis, and he has a Banish, and then he has a whole bunch of other stuff. So he also has this, which makes them all even more complicated. He has 4 different passives he wants to choose from at any given time. It's a ton of information to know. It's very hard to master, and learning to play someone like Brewmaster while you're also trying to play Dota is just... it's too much. It's too much. You can't properly focus on playing Dota unless you know how to play the hero that you're playing. So, if you're new to Dota, stay away from Brewmaster. Bristleback. I rate Bristleback at 5 stars. This hero, Quill Spray, is extremely easy to use, and you're going to have to get used to facing your hero, which is a very useful thing to know. We'll cover facing in another video. But Bristleback is extremely simple. He does physical damage in an AoE, and he gets 40% damage resistance if you're facing away from the hero that's trying to damage you. Very simple hero, allows you to focus on what's happening in the game and what your opponents are doing without having to constantly think about microing or things like that. No extremely fancy mechanics here. Definitely recommend Bristleback to new players. Centaur, I also definitely recommend Centaur to new players. He's a pretty stock standard blink stunner hero. You get 1 point into your stun, you get 1 point into retaliate, you max this double-edged skill, and you go Vanguard into blink dagger. You could pretty much do that every game at low ranks, and it'll work. Allowing you to not focus so much on items and not focus so much on exactly where to put your skill points. It's just pretty easy to get the hang of, and you can get into Dota pretty quick with a hero like that. CK, I'm also going to recommend. Now, he does have illusions, but basically everything you do with your hero, when you use your ult, it automatically selects the illusions, and you just hit people. That's it. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't need to split them up to start with. You don't need excellent micro. You just have clones that move with you and attack with you. And he's very, very strong. You get to focus on your fundamentals, so getting last hits and laning. He's also very fast. This hero is a monster right now. Pretty simple to play. So I definitely recommend him if you're looking at trying to get into carry. He's a 5-star. Clockwork. Now, Clockwork is an absolutely amazing hero, and if you're really good at Clockwork, you can absolutely destroy people as him, but if you're not very good at Clockwork, it's kind of easy to fall behind, and I don't know, once enemy heroes get BKB, if you're too far behind on Clockwork, then they kind of just kill you, and you lose the ability to be very impactful in fights later on. Some people are going to disagree with that. Those people are probably pretty good at Clockwork. But if you're not very good at Clockwork, it's very easy to do almost nothing on this hero. And that is what I'm going to use to rate some heroes quite low. Dawnbreaker. Now I'm going to rate Dawnbreaker at 3 stars. This hero has mobility with her hammer. She has solid damage and a slow on her hammer. You basically, all you need to do throughout the early game is just get used to using Celestial Hammer, and then you have a global ability that allows you to teleport to an ally and heal them and stun in an AoE. If you can just use these 2 abilities well, you can do pretty well in Dawnbreaker at the lower levels. Starbreaker is also not too complicated. It's pretty easy for enemy heroes to dodge or stun you out of, but honestly, if you're just good at using Celestial Hammer and Solar Guardian, you'll get pretty far using Dawnbreaker. Doom. I put Doom at 3 stars. Doom is an excellent hero if the enemy team has one hero that you're afraid of. So if their mid is very strong, just Doom him. That's all you gotta do. His ulti silences and mutes people for 16 seconds. They're not allowed, they can move and they can auto attack, but that's about it. They can't use their items, they can't use their spells. So Doom is very, very strong for just looking at one enemy hero that's really good and shutting them down. Other than that, he has some AoE damage over time, and he's pretty beefy. He has a natural farming skill, so it's pretty easy to stay in the game with Doom. So yeah, fairly straightforward, shuts down one enemy hero very well. Dragon Knight. I really recommend Dragon Knight as a 5-star for either a mid laner or an off laner. You can take him carry because he gets splash damage on his auto attack. Dragon Knight is very strong. He's incredibly durable. Breathe Fire is a very good skill, and his dragon form makes him really strong. Basically, to do well on this hero, you kind of just go power treads into Armlet, into Axe. You can get a Soul Ring if you're having mana issues. I highly recommend that. And you can do that pretty much every game, and it's very strong. This hero, it's all going to be down to how much farm you get out of the lane, focusing on fundamentals in Dota rather than fancy hero mechanics is definitely the way to go if you're trying to improve. So I highly recommend Dragon Knight. Earth Spirit, I don't recommend that you touch any of the spirits, especially Earth Spirit. All of his spells are skill shots. Rolling Boulder can be hard to land. You have to carefully manage how many stones he has, because he has a passive set of charges of stones, and he uses those to do everything. So if you take a fight without enough stones, it kind of just really sucks. But yeah, this hero has extra things to manage and a lot of skill shots to land. The hero is only really effective if you're good at landing his abilities against the right heroes. So the hero can be great. If you like the look of him, by all means give him a shot, but his kit is fairly complicated, and it's pretty easy to do nothing on Earth Spirit. You can also do a ton on Earth Spirit, so if you really like the look of this hero and you want to get good at him, then by all means go ahead. I'd recommend taking him position 4, and I would recommend queuing with someone so that they can choose a strong laner as the position 3. Earthshaker. Now, this hero has, I'm going to put him at somewhere between 2 and 3 star. If you know some tricks with this hero, you could do quite well on him, but honestly, right now, he's a little bit on the weaker side, especially if you don't know how to play him. So this hero is another hero where it's kind of easy to do very little. If you fall behind, mobility cores will just kill you over and over and over again. You have to be very aware of positioning and know what's strong about this hero to get very far on him. So I don't recommend him right now, just because he's not in his strongest state. Yeah, it's just new players are not gonna... It's a hero where you learn what's strong about him by losing to a very good player who's playing him. So, yeah, not recommended as a first hero, but he is very fun to play, and if you get good at him, he's an absolute monster. Elder Titan, this is a one star. I absolutely love this hero. He's amazing, but I can't recommend him for new players. You need to be able to micro his spirits, and you need to understand how Natural Order and Echo Stomp work. You also need to understand how sleeps work, and you need to know things about the heroes that you're facing in order to make the most of his kit. Just because it requires so much game knowledge to utilize, I don't recommend this to new players. I do absolutely love this hero, and if you like the look of him, feel free to give him a try. Huskar. Now, this is going to be a contentious rating, but I recommend that you stay away from Huskar as much as possible. The reason that I recommend that you stay away from Huskar, at least you should learn a hero like Drow Ranger first. We'll talk about Drow Ranger probably in the next video, because I'm just going to do the strength heroes for this one. But Huskar is a lane dominator whose kit is very difficult for your opponents to deal with. It's very easy for a low skill player to get very far on Huskar. But everything that you need to know to do well on Huskar, beyond facing idiots who have no idea how to face you, you need to learn from other heroes that are extremely dependent on positioning and winning the lane, heroes like Drow Ranger. Everything you learn about playing Drow Ranger is directly transferable to Huskar. It's just that the stronger your fundamentals are, the stronger you're going to be on Huskar. It's very easy to place yourself in the wrong MMR by spamming a hero like this, just because really bad players don't know how to deal with it. But just because you beat really bad players with essentially a cheese strat does not mean that you're better than them. It just means that you're going to place yourself in a bracket that you don't belong, and that can ruin your experience on Dota, where you lose playing anything other than Huskar. So I don't recommend that you play heroes, specifically Huskar, secondarily Viper, but we'll talk about that more later on. Anyway, I would recommend avoiding Huskar. Io. Now, Io tethers to another hero, and he buffs the crap out of that other hero and heals them an absolute ton. He is really good if you have somebody else to play Io with. So if you have another hero that wants to make use of Io's attack speed and move speed and heal, and you're playing with that other person in communication with them, Io can be absolutely great. Other than that, I really don't recommend playing this hero. I'm going to put him at a 3-star. But yeah, if you don't have a hero, if you don't have someone to play this hero with, honestly, just don't pick him. You really have to be tightly coordinated with whoever you are playing with. Kanka, I'm going to put him at a 4-star. This hero's abilities are very, very simple, and there's a little bit of a skill shot and a little bit of timing to get down with X marks and torrent. But honestly, the buttons themselves, pretty easy to press. The cleave is pretty easy to land. You learn about how to, you have to do a lot more with positioning your hero, so it'll help you get used to controlling your hero well. I highly recommend Kanka to new players. Skill shots make you try to anticipate where your opponent is going to be, which is a very useful skill to have, whether you're playing a hero with a skill shot or not. Tidebringer makes you think a ton about your lane position, and the X marks torrent combo makes you helps you get used to trying to carefully time spells, which is also a very useful thing. And the buff from his ulti is incredibly valuable as well. You don't really have to be good. You don't even have to hit people with his ulti. Sometimes just casting it anywhere can be very, very strong. So I highly recommend Kanka. You can play him as an offlaner, as a mid laner, or as a support in the offlane. if you want to. Legion Commander. Now, Legion Commander, I'm going to put her at 4 stars. She's a very strong hero. She's pretty straightforward. She fights people, and she heals herself. Now, I would recommend that you learn a little bit about dispels, because press the attack is a dispel as well as a heal. And you're going to have to be a little bit careful. It's kind of easy to feed very, very hard with Legion Commander. You want to be dueling as often as you can, because you gain permanent damage every time you win a duel. But if you lose these frequently, you're kind of just throwing the game to your opponent. And yes, you have to be a little bit careful, but the hero itself is pretty straightforward. You want to duel heroes, you want to kill them, you want to acquire permanent damage, and you want to just keep doing that until the enemy cannot stop you. Lifestealer, also a very strong hero. He has Lifesteal. What a surprise! His name is Lifestealer. Yeah, it's very easy to sustain the lane with him. He also has this skill, which is a slow, as well as an attack speed buff for himself, and he also has a spell immunity. It's very easy for him to get out of danger. It's very easy for him to get into a fight. It's very easy for him to lane, so I highly recommend him to people who are new to the carry role, just because it's pretty easy to do well on him. If your fundamentals of Dota are good, if your base mechanics, if you can last hit and farm, it's very easy to do well on Lifestealer. And I think that eliminating variables is how you want to start to learn the game. So highly recommend Lifestealer. That's going to be a 5-star carry for me. Lykan. Lykan is pretty low armor, pretty cooldown dependent, and you need to be able to micro his units. He's also kind of weak in the current patch, so I'm going to put him at 1 star, just because that's a lot of management and disadvantage to try and learn. The hero turns into a werewolf and runs extremely fast and has huge damage boosts. Also an armor reduction, which is all very nice, but actually using it can be very difficult. So I'm going to leave that at a 1 star. Magnus, you can take this hero off lane or as a position 4, so the support in the off lane. He's really cool. He charges people and moves them along with him, and he has a very, very strong skill that stuns people through spell immunity. He can also give your carry 36% bonus damage and 40% cleave. It's pretty easy to grab farm on this hero, so even if your lane goes poorly, you can pretty much always come back. But yeah, this hero is strong all around, and if you get good at playing him, you'll be an absolute monster. Alright everyone, I'm going to call that for the first half of this. I'm going to go ahead and release a part 2 later today with the rest of this. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, maybe a comment, even consider sharing the video. It would help me out tremendously. Anyways, I'll see you in a little bit with the rest of the strength heroes from Marcy onwards. Bye!